Welcome to Spirits and Cousins. I'm Tish.
I'm Courtney.
And guess what? We're back.
Woohoo!
We are back in 26. It's that time.
Excellent. I'm so glad to be back.
I am too. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been. We both have had a variety of life changes and exciting things, but also very time-consuming things.
Absolutely. Courtney's been working a lot. I started working again, traveling. We've both been traveling. And, we're back in the content business. We're looking to do several investigations this season and excited for 2026.
Yeah, we have some pretty cool stuff coming up.
Yeah. And we've both had, as Courtney mentioned, a lot of changes in life. Courtney had some family stuff. I always have some family stuff. And we're back and ready to go.
Yeah.
And I will say that I have been watching for that Ghost Adventures that Courtney did in Monterey. I think it's going to be sometime during this new season.
I hope.
Yeah.
So far, we haven't seen it.
Yeah. We haven't seen it yet, but we're hopeful. And I think we're able to nurse our anxiousness of wanting to see it with what we're drinking today.
Absolutely.
And what are we drinking today? We're together, by the way, so we're not remote. So we're in the same room, and we are drinking
Michter's
American whiskey.
Yeah, you introduced this to me.
I did.
It's a good one.
I like it. I enjoy Michter's overall. I like American whiskey. I've had the rye, and I'm not a big rye drinker, but I like the rye once in a while. And
yeah, I like it. It's become more of a standard for me.
Yeah.
Even though my standard is still Buffalo Trace. I love that.
Well,
but it's a really good one to add to the collection.
I like Buffalo Trace too. And I like a few others out there that are newer to me. You introduced me to Penelope.
Right? Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
And I've been drinking more Redwood Empire.
Redwood? I haven't tried that.
It's pretty good.
Well, there you go.
They have really interesting labels.
There you go. Well, we don't want to tease everyone out there, except that we'll say that here in the Monterey area, the weather's been beautiful. I know many of you are under feet of snow in the Midwest and the East Coast. I know that at the Michigan house, it was like negative 10 degrees last week.
Yep.
And
same thing with Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So I was actually family are kind of buried.
I was talking to Courtney's mom, and she was saying how cold it was there. So,
I'm so grateful. This weather has been very different from. I haven't been here that long, but it's been very different this year versus the last 3 years, 4 years.
And what Courtney will tell you now is she has no desire to go back to Minnesota for the winter.
No. Nope. If I don't need to go be in snow and cold, I'm not going to.
This is true. Well, I am very glad to be back in California after spending my summer in the Midwest. I'm very happy to be in this weather. I'm very happy to be able to play golf on a regular basis and having some nice weather and be outside. Heck yeah. You just went for a hike today.
I did. Yep. Just on the Monterey Rec Trail, but it was such a beautiful day. I'm sure I got some sun on my face and enjoyed some good company.
I think that's fabulous.
I've been spending lots of time in the woods, just finding my soul again. And we've been just planning, what do we all want to do this season?
And we have a ton of opportunities and a ton of locations we want to investigate. And we're going to be doing one probably almost every weekend for the next 3 months. We got a lot of content to cover, a lot of exciting things. Tonight, we're going to share with you something that we did. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? Yeah. 2 weeks ago?
Something
2
like
weeks
that.
ago. So we're going to kick this off with an interview that we did with Kathy. You notice I don't use any last names so people don't look people up, but Kathy, that is her real name. And Courtney and I have both known her for quite a while. what's interesting about this is she's been on us about her house and wanting to investigate it for, I don't know, since probably around this time last year.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you may remember Courtney did some shorts on Insta and on TikTok when we went to Oregon to visit Kathy, where she used to live, and had a lot of activity in her backyard around a river, or along the river, I should say. And now Kathy lives in the San Jose area. So she asked Courtney to come out and check her house out. She's got a lot of things going on. We're first going to kick off with the interview with Kathy, and then Courtney and I are going to be back to tell you about this investigation that we did a few weeks back over the course of like 6 hours. And it was very interesting, I'll say. And I think you all will find it intriguing. So let's cut over.
Oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
You've had a lot of experiences at that house as well. So I'm excited for you to share your experiences as well.
I have. When we come back, I'm very excited that Courtney got to experience some of the things that I experienced there while we were there. You know what? I don't want to like give it all away. So let's hop over to Kathy's interview, and then we'll be back to tell you all about the investigation. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, we'll be back. Hey there. I'm here with Kathy. And Kathy lives in Santa Clara, California, about an hour from our stomping ground down there in Monterey and Cannery Row. And there's a really good reason why we're here tonight. Oddly enough, Kathy lives a few miles from the Winchester house. And as luck would have it, her house seems to have some interesting energies. And so that's why we're here. We had posted an experience that Courtney and I had with Kathy at her house up in Oregon. Probably about 3 years ago. Since then, Kathy's relocated down to Santa Clara, and I'm here on a regular basis. And who knew there'd be so many interesting things for us to talk about? And tonight we're going to do an investigation. But I first want to start by saying, hey, Kathy, thanks for having us in your house.
Hey, thanks for coming. I'm glad to have you both here.
Now, just for everyone out there, I do stay here from time to time when I'm having to have meetings in Berkeley. I have not personally experienced some of the stuff that we're going to talk about, but I'm very anxious and hopeful with Courtney here tonight that we're going to be able to figure out a little bit more about what's here and whether or not there's something we can do to help it. But first, let's just start with Kathy. You've been here in this house for how long?
Only back in Santa Clara a couple of years.
You had shared with me there's a few interesting things that go on in this area. For one thing, across the street from you, behind a wall, so it's not like you're looking out onto it, is a cemetery.
That's correct.
And two doors down, there is an adobe that is said to be haunted. It's the oldest adobe in Santa Clara. You had shared that they had actually moved that adobe from some location to here. Rumor has it was a jail at one point. And I read that there's some stories, I don't know how accurate they are, that it's part of the Underground Railroad. So let's just say there's a lot of stuff going on around here.
There is. It's an interesting part. This is old Santa Clara, called the Old Quad. It goes back to, I guess, the 18th century. We have Santa Clara University and the original mission close by. And we do have a cemetery, the Mission Cemetery, which is some of the oldest graves, I think, in Santa Clara.
Oh, really?
There's certainly from the early 1800s.
Early 1800s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they call it a kind of a pioneer cemetery. And in this house, there's just been a presence that's been felt by me and by others. A shadow. Someone saw a figure of a man in this front room.
So let's talk a little about that.
Yeah.
Your brother owns this property.
Yes, my brother's been here about, 25 or 30 years.
And there's a main house that you're in, and then there is a There is a unit in the house on the back where he stays.
Correct.
Did he stay in this house that you're in now?
He did live in this house originally when he bought the property. And then he built the other house and moved into that. And he had this as a rental house for many, many years.
And when he lived here, has he ever shared with you any experiences he's had in the house?
He never mentioned anything. So, no, I don't think he ever experienced anything. Although I did tell him that you two were coming, and he was quite intrigued by all of it.
Really? Maybe we can get him to come over, even if he just sits and watches.
Yeah.
Get him out of the house back there. So he didn't experience anything, and he lived in this house for approximately how long?
I don't know, some number of years.
Okay. And then he had renters after that.
A renter. I think the same
renter,
I believe, for 20 years, maybe. Yeah.
Wow. And that's kind of one of the things that makes this situation a little unique when we think about what could or couldn't be in this space. What can you tell us about that renter that I think everyone would find a little
So I never met him. His name was Tom. And Tom was a machinist, a very skilled guy, from what I know, and he worked a lot. But I think I believe he was an alcoholic, based on everything I saw in the house. From what I understand, it was full of beer cans, a couple feet tall.
And he smoked? Was he a smoker?
And he was a heavy smoker. And I think what happened was he during the pandemic, was forced to stay home, and like everybody, it probably wasn't really helpful for him to do that. And probably drank more than he probably wanted to, like a lot of people, and continued down that path until he succumbed to it.
And he passed here in the house.
He did. He passed here in this living room and was found sometime later when a friend came to visit him and found his body there.
So he had been here for at least some number of days.
Yeah.
And what also is unique about this house that's worth mentioning, besides this is me talking now about that's creepy. I can say that I've stayed here and I've never felt anything that would make me think he's around, but hopefully we're going to find out tonight. But the bottom line is that he lived here for 20 years. He died here. And he was kind of stuck here till someone found him.
Yeah.
And then you and your brother was left with the aftermath of having to clean this all up.
Yeah.
And then you moved in at some point after that, and you kind of gutted it. So it's got a fresh start, new kitchen, new bathroom, fresh paint, floors, the whole 9 yards. And you've been here for a few years. Now, the reason we're here tonight is because there's just some interesting things that have happened and that continue to happen.
Yeah.
So I want to start with, you've been here a few years. What is your earliest recollection of feeling just either a presence or something here?
I think after it was gutted and after kind of most of the repairs were done, when I started staying here, I can't express it correctly. There's a presence of something. Maybe it's an absence of something. I don't know what it is, but there's a feeling of non-malevolent, but a feeling of a presence, a shadow. I see shadows in the house.
Even during the day, you told me.
During the day, most definitely. And I'm not afraid. It doesn't scare me.
Right.
I just can't explain it. I can't understand it. And I don't know if it's something maybe that needs some help. So you're here.
You also mentioned that like even during the day, you'll be in one of the rooms and can actually feel something go by.
Yes.
Through the kitchen or in the hallway.
Yes. I also occasionally get odors. And they're not necessarily bad odors, but something out of nowhere that I shouldn't be smelling in my house. Maybe it's gardenias or something crazy.
Right.
Or food or something very intense and very specific, and then it's gone.
Well, I'll say, just to add on to that, before I have so many other questions that I want to ask you, I will say that there's been several times when I've commented to you that when I go in this room that I stay in when I'm here, I'll go in and I'll get hit real hard for a minute or so by strong cigarette smoke odor. And it comes and goes. And cigarette smoke, if it lingers in a room because maybe someone lived here because they were smoking, that's not the sort of thing that's just going to come and go. And when I say it goes, sometimes I'll walk in that room and I'm like, it smells like an ashtray in here. And then within a few minutes, it smells just as like fresh, like it was just cleaned. Yeah. So that's my experience that I've had here. So in addition, so even starting a few years ago, you felt some sort of energy in the space. Yeah. And then let's fast forward to a few other things. I'm going to bring up something that you shared with me once in the room that when I visit her that I sleep in. And that was that you said, I don't know if it's once or multiple times that you've seen something dark in the corner in that room. In specific corner that I see a shadow, a darkness or something when there shouldn't be any shadow. And does it move or does it just No, it's a shadow. So yeah, I think there is movement. Yeah, there's movement, but does it have any kind of shape to it? I'd say angular. That's all I could say is angular. Right. Sounds weird, but it is. I have not experienced that in that room, and I haven't felt outside of the cigarette smoke much of a presence when I've stayed. But I think there's a couple of other things I want to touch on, and then anything else that you can remember. But your nephew comes to stay with you, and maybe you can share what he experienced. My nephew, who is a very practical person and has never expressed any interest in, otherworldly things, energies or ghosts or anything, and mentioned to me, quite out of the blue, that he saw a man sitting in the couch when, of course, there was no man here. He saw, plain as day, a man sitting in the couch in the evening when he got up, something, and then it was gone. And it really startled him and probably concerned him a little bit. And was didn't he tell you, he shared what that man looked like and what he was wearing, or? I don't remember that. If I may have. I think he said he had a black suit on with a hat. Yeah, but he was wearing dark clothing. That's right. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah. Yeah, and it felt real to him. And it was startling and a little unnerving. And then, did you ever see that dark? I have seen a shape in the couch one other time. Really? Sitting in the same place that your nephew saw him sitting? I think so. Yeah. It's kind of out there, huh? Not too long ago, within the last few months, we had a mutual friend staying here. I was actually staying here with you all. And for our listeners out there, they might remember Gilda. Gilda has done a couple of different episodes with us. You might remember her from when she was staying at the Westin Hotel in San Jose and had all the strange stuff happening to her in the hotel with people and cigarette smoke. She was here. I was sleeping in the bedroom that from time to time will have a cigarette smell. She was sleeping on the couch, and she was awakened 2 or 3 times that night with something shaking her feet or slapping her feet to kind of like, she took it as like, get out of the way, I want to sit here. And she very matter of fact said, yeah, my feet got hit a few times last night while I was sleeping to move. And I would be like, I would have been running in to Kathy's bedroom and jumping in the bed, but she didn't seem that fazed by it. Let's just backtrack a bit, because one of the things that I forgot to ask you about is that this house was moved from another location too. It wasn't always here. Correct. I learned that from a neighbor who she mentioned somebody owned this big tract of land and they pulled some different houses and had maybe 100 years ago. This house had been here at least 100 years.
But before that, I don't know where it came from.
Right. So it wasn't originally here.
No.
So the reason I bring this up is because it is possible that there could be energies and spirits that came with the house when it was moved as well. So we have a lot of things stacking up. And there is one last piece that I want to mention that I just recalled. A few months ago, a few different times when I stayed here, I would get up around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom. And one of the dogs would be sitting by the front door, staring down the hallway into the kitchen. And no matter what I did, it wouldn't even look at me. It would stare straight ahead. It was 2 nights in a row. The first night it was one of Kathy's dogs, and the second night it was her other dog. But both nights, both dogs sat at the front door by a mat by the front door, staring down the hallway that looks past bedrooms on the right and a kitchen down the way. And when I walked out of the room to go to the restroom, and I'm walking right in front of them, I'm within a foot of them, they didn't, neither night, neither dog turned their head to even look at me. They just kept staring down that hallway.
It never happened since.
And I thought it was really strange, but I had to go to the restroom. And I went back in the room, and even when I walked back, I'm walking right back at them. They didn't move. They didn't move their head. They didn't make a noise. They didn't follow me into the room. And that was one night it was one dog. The second night it was the other dog. And I think what's interesting is both those dogs sleep with you, and the door is closed with everything except clicking shut. So they had to open it to come out here. And it's like they're in a trance. So another reason why, or just something else to add to the list. So let me backtrack for a minute. This house was moved here. Kathy's brother bought it decades ago. He lived here for a period of time. Then he built a house on the back of the house, another home, and had a renter that was here for 20 years. That renter passed away in this house and was here for some number of days. I don't know if it was 1, 2, 3 days, until a friend discovered him. So someone passed away in here. And then Kathy guts it. And after the renovation and after she moves in, she continually feels a presence in the house. It doesn't feel like it's a negative energy, but there's a presence. And she feels this presence throughout the week. It's a regular thing. Yep. Her nephew sees a man sitting on the couch. A friend of ours has something hitting her feet to move. The room that I stay in, and I've brought you in there a few times, when the cigarette smoke smell is very heavy and then it goes away. The dogs are kind of staring down the hallway in the middle of the night, which is very odd, especially since they didn't turn their head to look at me. And I would say, lastly, Kathy has seen in the room actually that I stay in, it's her guest room, has seen a dark, shadowy, angular thing in the corner on the wall. So this is going to be a fun investigation, because also don't forget that we have this house that's been moved here. 2 doors down is the oldest adobe in the city that was moved there. That was a jail that was supposedly part of the Underground Railroad and God knows what else. That's over 100 years old. And then across the street from her is a cemetery. So we've got a lot of different situations and energies all coming together. Yeah. And we don't know what it all is. We plan on trying to figure this out tonight. And just to give you all an idea, we're going to be setting up flashlights, spirit box, REM pods, video. We're going to shut the door and video in the room that in her guest room, the room that I typically stay in, where the cigarette smell is, and she's seen the shadow in the corner on the wall. So we're going to shut that door, turn that light off. Our video has night vision. And then Courtney's going to do her magic through the house. We're going to walk the house. We are going to investigate. So tonight should be an interesting evening, and we will report back with what we find. But Kathy, thanks for inviting us.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, we're very excited to be here and very excited to see what comes out of it. So more to come. So, Courtney,
Yo,
we be back. We had a great investigation. Kathy, it was so nice of her to let us into her house and let us take over her house. And we also got to go next door to the Berryessa adobe. That is the oldest adobe in Santa Clara. There was something that I read that it had been many things besides just an adobe. It was a jail at one time. And then I read something about the Underground Railroad, which I didn't even know we had in California.
I didn't either.
But it was interesting. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to try to be succinct and concise because I know that everyone listening is going to want to know, what did we use? What did we find? And kind of as we went through the process, what is the equipment that we eliminated? What did we hone in on? And we had some odd things happening, which I think everyone was going to want to hear about that. But first I want to start with, so fill us in. What was the setup? What equipment was set up and where in the house?
So in one bedroom in particular, an infrared camera was set up because there had been reports of shadows in there as well as a very strong cigarette smell. So that was in there. And then in the kitchen, I had a motion light where if a spirit came near it, it would light up. And then in the room we were in, we tried that machine that we've tried before.
It's like some sort of digital spirit box.
Yeah, but we just, that was the first thing to go.
You know what was crazy about that for everyone listening? That's probably one of the more expensive pieces of equipment we have besides the FLIR heat gun.
Yep.
And we've never been able to get that digital spirit box thing to work. The ones you got from, who are the people that made our special spirit box?
Supernatural Inc.
Yeah.
From Katie and Katie.
Yep. That one has usually worked pretty well for us. So keep going. You ended up eliminating the digital spirit box. It cost an arm and a leg.
Yeah. And I feel like we gave it a good try, but we've never gotten any consistent responding.
No. And I leave it to you. You give it a try whenever you can.
But of course we had out our, the usual EMF detectors, and we had several out, and we had an interesting experience with that, which we can go more into. I did bring out dowsing rods at one point, and a voice recorder, and the spirit box.
And the flashlights.
Which were always, the flashlights are my go-to.
They always work. They work. The dowsing rods work. What was really cool about the dowsing rods was that you let Kathy try those, and I think she was taken back by how responsive they were.
A lot of people see you working with dowsing rods and like, oh, you moved it. You did a slight motion, or you breathed and it moved. And so when people actually hold the dowsing rods and they work for them, especially that first time where spirit responds, it's really fun watching their expression.
You're right. I've seen you give the dowsing rods or allow other people to use the dowsing rods, and they're really taken back by how responsive they are because you're right. People think that you're moving them, and then they see. And in Kathy's case, they were moving back and forth. So we had infrared, we had digital spirit box, we had flashlights, we had EMF, we didn't have
the
FLIR.
We did not use the REM pod yet. We had it out, but we didn't use it.
Yeah. And so the first thing you eliminated was the digital spirit box. Played around with the dowsing rods. We were getting more back on the flashlights, right?
Yeah. And typically the EMF responds really well to us. And that usually is that, and the flashlights are my go-tos. But the EMF was doing a really odd thing that night.
Yeah? Well, why don't you tell us what was really odd about that piece of equipment?
So when I turn on the EMF detectors, I really make sure, of course, that we're not by electricity, that my phone is away, anyone's phone's electronics are not nearby. And I put it on this table where there's no electronics on it, under it, it's not plugged into anything. And the EMF kept flickering up from the light, the dark, the green into the red, green to the red, and back and forth and back and forth.
The entire time.
So then I put out a second EMF, and it did the same thing. And so I had those two, and then I added a third, and they all did the same thing, which leads me to believe, okay, something is going on. Maybe not spirit, though. because we weren't by electricity. So it was odd what was happening, and I still can't quite pinpoint it. But I definitely hesitated saying, I don't know that this is spirit.
So a few weeks before, I was staying at Kathy's, and Courtney sent me with a recorder and an EMF. And Kathy was very excited to see what would happen. So we're sitting in the living room, which is where we were during this investigation. That was our main room. And we turned on the EMF, and the thing would not come off a red. No matter where I walked in the house. If I walked to the back of the house, it still was doing it. I walked outside to the front of the house. Now I'm probably going to give something away because you're going to say, you're going to debunk it. But I walked outside. I walked to my car. It was doing this red everywhere, just going back and forth, green to red, green to red. And you had a hypothesis around this because it didn't matter which EMF. It didn't matter whether we were outside or inside. And we'll talk a little more about going a few doors down to the Berryessa adobe, which is literally 2 doors from Kathy's house, a famous historical adobe. It was doing it there. What are your thoughts on that?
Could it be spirit? Yeah. But because they were all doing the same pattern and there wasn't a break, typically we can say, hey, please stop doing that for a moment and then answer the question. Yeah. It just wouldn't stop doing it. So that leads me to think there could be more electrical things happening than it is spiritual. And so I don't want to say, I don't feel at all comfortable saying, oh, there's some spirit. The EMFs were showing spirit.
You told her to get her house.
I did. Because this is weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I was there a few weeks before, I took it with me in the restroom, shut the door. It's the same thing. And no matter where you were, inside or outside, all around the house, it was just off the charts. And it didn't really do anything more than just go maximum. So I think you gave her good advice, because to have every EMF meter do that, it's against the odds, and it actually wasn't communicating anything. So I don't know what the value would be. So we eliminate the digital spirit box. We turned off, at some point, we stopped paying attention or turned off some of those.
Yeah, we stopped paying attention to it just in case anything more happened.
Then in the meantime, during all this, don't forget that we have the infrared video going in the bedroom that I sleep in that had the dark shadow that Kathy talked about in her interview. We shut the door. It's all in the dark. So we have that going. Did some dowsing rods, flashlights.
The flashlights responded.
Yes.
They're always my favorite, even more than the EMFs, because flashlight, it is really hard to debunk that, because they have to literally do a slight twist of the flashlight to turn it on. And it was very responsive. It wasn't just turning on randomly like the EMFs were. It was very responsive to what we were asking.
So tell us about your interpretation of the kinds of energy and spirit energy that was coming through the flashlights, because you said it apparently there's a lot of different things coming through. Remember, it was hard to have a full, long conversation. Or just when we thought it might be perhaps the person that passed away, it would kind of just go off and not really.
The energy would change. The atmosphere would change. And so, sometimes it seemed to me that it was the person who previously lived in the house who passed away in the house. But other times it just seemed to be almost like spirits passing through, or spirit that was just
agree with you.
Hanging around.
I would agree with you.
Maybe not necessarily attached to the house, but even perhaps attached to the land.
None of them felt evil for everyone. Oh, no. I know that everyone wants to hear about demonic energy. None of it was evil, but I think it's also worth mentioning that across the street from Kathy's, and we mentioned this in the interview with her, there's a cemetery. Also worth mentioning to remind everyone is, 1, she lives across the street from a cemetery. 2, she lives 2 doors down from the oldest adobe in Santa Clara, which used to be a jail. 3, her house had been moved to that spot from another spot. 4, somebody actually passed away in the house. And I'm going to say 5 is that her nephew saw a man sitting on the end of the couch with a dark suit on. And Kathy has, on a regular basis, as recent as this last week, because I was there, has felt since we left whatever presence is in the house is going back and forth down that hallway where the dogs were staring. And she feels it during the day, throughout the day, and at night.
That's interesting.
So what do you make out of all? Is this some sort of gathering place for all these folks or what?
It might be. And who knows, with the house having been moved. But yeah, I mean, it feels like there's a bunch of spirits just hanging out. And like you said, none of it feels bad. None of it feels harmful. The spirit that, I mean, I more likely say ghost. The ghost that walks that line to me feels more residual. Like it doesn't have
that to her.
Intelligent, that it just walks that line. And the dogs can sense that. So that was really interesting to like talk through and to experience, but it definitely, to me, it felt non-intelligent. So that's a ghost.
So it felt like, I definitely felt that there was a lot of different spirits and energy going through there. And even the man that her nephew felt that was sitting at the end of the couch did not feel like it was evil or anything. I wonder if that was the same entity that was slapping Jilda's feet, telling her to move her feet out of the way. Because where her feet were was where that man was sitting when her nephew saw it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, it's like, you're in my way, so move your feet. That's where I want to be.
What was even crazier is that Jilda, you all might remember Jilda from when she was talking, we interviewed her last year. She was staying at the Westin Hotel in San Jose, and she had all kinds of interesting experiences there. The next morning when she was talking about this, it was very matter of fact, didn't bother her. She just moved her feet and went back to sleep.
Yeah.
Like I'd be running out of there because I'm scared to cat.
Well, but you wouldn't be because you've had experiences in the house yourself.
Yeah. And that experience was not seeing anything. So I didn't see this dark shadow in the corner of the room I sleep in, which is why we set up the video camera in there. And by the way, nothing was captured on video. It was 2.5 hours of nothing. And I went through all the footage and there was nothing. I might go through it again because I was speeding through it, but I didn't see anything, which makes sense because had I seen something, remember you had lights in there on the bed, it would have tripped the light off. We could have seen it under the door.
Yes, and that's right. We did put a motion detected light in the bedroom as well, and an EMF detector.
I am desperate to catch something on that infrared camera somewhere, one of these places.
We will, and I think it'll be a great going back to her house because I could see us setting the camera up in that living room as well when we're out doing something else, and to see if we can get the spirit or the ghost that does go back and forth, or the one that sits down in that spot. But your experience has been really interesting, and we experienced it as well that night.
Yep. And that is again, in the interview, we talk about the strong smell of cigarettes. And many times when I walk into that room I stay in, it smells like a frickin' ashtray. And it's there for like a minute or so. And then it is poof, gone, and it smells clean. This was redeeming for me because share what happened to you when you were in the living room. And we were all there.
Well, and you usually smell it in the bedroom, right?
That's right.
So we were in the living room, all three of us together. And all of a sudden, we're in the middle of a different conversation. I'm like, do you guys smell that?
Yep. Courtney said, stop. Do you guys smell that?
Huh?
And I'm like, what? And you're like, it's cigarette smoke. And I took a little whiff and I'm like, you're right. It is.
And it didn't smell like it was right next to us, but it was strong enough. But it happened many different times that night, which was also just fascinating. And it seemed like they were smoking a full cigarette.
Yeah.
And then they'd come back and do another one later on because it wasn't immediate after. It was, I don't know, every 20 minutes.
You know what it made me wonder? Because you're right. It wasn't like they lit up right there in front of us. It was like coming in from the side. I just had a thought. Do you think it was coming from the room?
It could,
where the video camera was set up, but it didn't trip the video camera? Because it almost felt like it was coming in front of you, like coming in front of us from the side.
I just got full body chills. So that tells me that is very likely right because it didn't smell like it was right next to us, but we could absolutely smell it.
And you could tell you could tell the direction it was coming from because it wasn't coming from your right. It was coming from your left. And I could smell it coming through. It didn't appear to me right away that that's what it was because I'm used to it. But I kid you not, there are times I go there in the middle of the day. And I go into that room, and as soon as I open that door, it's like an ashtray. And then I'm like, Kathy, come in here. And by the time she gets in her, it's gone.
But she smelled it that night.
She did. So we had the cigarette. We had just a ton of activity and questions on the flashlights, none of which could we carry on a full conversation. You could tell, maybe you could elaborate. You could tell that the identities were shifting as we were asking questions. It wasn't the same energy and spirit when we would get it for a period of questions, and then you could tell it would go away and something else would come in.
Well, what I like about the flashlights too is that it depends on your energy and how much energy they have. And you can tell they have more energy when it's a crisper turn on and turn off. Yeah. And then there are other times where it'd sputter a little bit more, or it would take a little bit more time. And to me, when those patterns would change, that's when the spirit would change.
Makes sense. I mean, we were there for about 5 or 6 hours in total. We got a ton of energy back, but let's just debunk that there was nothing demonic there.
Nothing.
So the question becomes, we spoke to the flashlight and the flashlight was responding, but I don't recall having a long conversation where we could have kind of an end-to-end, like why they were there, who they were. You were asking a lot of questions, and it was answering random questions. But very early on, you said there's multiple energies and spirits in this house. So the investigation was successful from the standpoint of it kind of all came out while you were there.
Yes.
Great. With the equipment. So you were able to see and validate. The EMF thing was off the charts and something electrical, and you told her to get something checked in her house. We got nothing on video. We had the cigarette smoke, and I think that Kathy was looking for closure, that it wasn't something that was negative or evil. She kind of wanted to know, is it the man that possibly passed away there? I don't know if I would have a tendency to say no, and I'll tell you why. That room where the cigarette smell is, because he was a big smoker, that was not his main bedroom, according to what Kathy said. It was one of the other rooms. But cigarette smoke, maybe that is the room he hangs out in. But we've got the cigarette smoke. We got the flashlight, back and forth. And
dowsing rod. I mean, we had some great responses with the dowsing rod.
Yep.
Between both of us. I had some and she had some.
Yep. It was great to have Kathy there. And I think that she very much enjoyed being part of it. At the same time, Courtney and I were talking about having her there, that it suppressed some things because she's there all the time. So as a result, we're going to go back another time. Because one, we got a ton of feedback from the space, and Courtney really wants to figure out what is there? Like, is it people passing through from the cemetery? This man, this older man in a black kind of suit with a hat, according to Kathy. What she saw in the room in the corner. Thank goodness I haven't seen that, because that's the room that I stay in when I'm there. Ultimately, what are your thoughts on this investigation?
I feel like we can say there's absolute spirit activity. Did we get enough information saying who are all the spirits? No, absolutely not. But with the dowsing rods, with the flashlight, that tells me that there's something going on there. With the cigarette smell, 100%. I do believe that it is important to have more investigation there if we do want to figure out more information, more who's around.
Without Kathy,
just to see how much will anything different happen while we're there.
Yep, totally get it. So that was Kathy's house. And during the night, we left the house and we walked down the front stairs of her house, turned to the left, went 2 doors down to the adobe.
It was built in the 1840s, and it used to be a jail for, and I'm quoting this per my references, which is, the internet, that it had unruly Native Americans in it.
Makes sense.
And there's also some information that's unsubstantiated that there might be Indian burial mounds right there as well.
Well, look what you found in Monterey.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. I think that California is probably covered with these burial grounds, and this is no different. We did not get to spend a lot of time there, only because it was freaking cold.
It was cold.
And it was nighttime, and we couldn't get in, but I know that if we go back, I asked Kathy that if we go back, for her to see if we can get in there, because it's a small little adobe. Santa Clara is not a huge city, and there's a good chance we'll be able to get in there. Here's my hopes with this. My hopes with this investigation are that we can get back in there again when Kathy's not there, that we can use some of those tools. Oh, we did use the FLIR heat gun, and we didn't get anything.
We were hoping.
Yeah, but my hope is that we can get back in the house and just me, you, and whatever is there without Kathy. And you can kind of get to the bottom. One, to make sure that what's there wants to be there. And if it's doesn't want to be there, you can help it move on.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes things can get stuck. And that's where Courtney comes in and can do her magic. I find it hard to believe that all the different energies and spirits that we could have encountered that night. I'm just trying to recall back. There had to have been at least 3 or 4 different ones in there. I find it hard to believe that they all want to be stuck in there.
I mean, they typically don't, or they just don't know any different.
So my hope is if we go back there, we get some real conversations with what's in there, and you can determine where and how you can help. Sometimes helping is just laying the ground rules for what's there.
Yeah, and sometimes if I don't get specifics, it just is me doing what I call, for lack of better phrasing, of opening the heavens. So I can always do that in a more generic way, so that way any spirit that wants to can pass through it. And
one last thing I want to
grounded.
One last thing I want to ask you about before we close this one out, at least until we go back again. What impact, if any, do you think the cemetery has? I know that everyone thinks, oh, there's a cemetery across the street. Now, again, for everyone listening, it's not like you can see it. There's like an 8-foot cement wall. Just because a cemetery is across the street doesn't mean that, you've got energy and spirits coming over. What is your take on that? Because the one thing that seems to be kind of a common feature in this house is that it's the same sort of spirits, with the exception of you sensed a female in there while we were there. Not for long, but it was kind of fleeting. I don't know if Kathy certainly can't discern, although, her nephew said it was a man on the end of the couch, and so did Gilda. What impact does the cemetery have on that, if any?
I didn't explore that much that night, but in general, I don't think that cemeteries have an impact. And again, everyone can believe, everyone can have their different ideas or different feelings or different senses on what's going on. But in general, my sense of cemeteries is, who wants to stay in a cemetery? And it's just the body. The soul wants to go to where it had the most enjoyment in life, or it has to go to wherever it has to go to learn its next lessons. So I just don't believe cemeteries tend to have a big impact. Could it? Yeah, it could.
I think,
but my experience is that cemeteries don't have a big impact on the land or the buildings around it.
It's funny because we're brought up to think that cemeteries is where all the ghosts and spirits hang out. A lot of it is because of movies. Sometimes some of the paranormal investigators out there do have experiences in cemeteries. But something that Courtney said to me like 4 or 5 years ago is, when a person dies, their spirit leaves their body then. They don't follow it to the cemetery and hang out in a cemetery. Like you just said, they're going to want to hang out, around something that was part of their lives. Sometimes they get stuck. If they were in an accident, they may get stuck somewhere where they passed away. But cemeteries, I don't know. I kind of sometimes wonder if some of that is horror movie talk. Now, with that said, I think I would agree. I would say and agree with what most people think about cemeteries. There is something kind of spooky about them. There is something,
for sure,
because you're going in there, and let's just call it what it is. You've got thousands of dead bodies under the ground.
Yeah.
And
creepy.
It is.
Because of that.
But how many times have you been in a cemetery and I don't know the answer to this, everyone. How many times have you been in a cemetery and you've come across all kinds of different energy?
I typically don't. There's been a handful of instances, but it is very infrequent.
Okay, back to Kathy's house. Nothing evil found. However, we were able to validate there is definitely energy in there. The cigarette smoke is real. I feel vindicated because at least you don't think I was making it up when I was saying this. And so we're going to go back. We're going to see what's there without Kathy. Courtney's going to do her thing. We'll let you know. That'll be a quick update on the front end of one of the episodes. And we've got multiple investigations coming up. We are going to be investigating for like the next 4 to 6 weeks. And we're going to be gathering most of our content for 26 during the next month and a half. And in the meantime, I would say that we want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
If you have a story you want to tell, if you have your own experience, please write us spiritsandcousins@gmail.com.
Or we're also on Instagram and TikTok. Feel free to reach out to us there as well. Yeah, we want to hear your stories, or if you have places that you recommend that we go. If your house is haunted,
yes,
let us know. We're happy to go out and explore and experience.
Absolutely. We want to hear from you. So let us know. And we've got a lot of great content coming up. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Till next time, I'm Tish.
I'm Courtney.
And we're Spirits and Cousins.
Later.